tickets and everything for all the rest of these guys that go to New York. And you know how much I had traveled and saw the big city? It was just awe, but they gave it to me because I guess I was probably older when there were a lot of
Just not long
17-year-olds,
enough, that's the trouble.
17,
Yes, it
18.
Were they allowed to be on the ships when they were 17, or did they just lie their way in?
Yeah, they could.
Where are you going?
They were way too young. Though. They were too young.
To Grandma's
Yeah.
table?
I felt sorry for them. They were too young not to be. Well, we didn't have the military discipline. You know, after you got aboard ship, you were on your own.
Yeah.
Grandpa, what were you going to do in New York?
Well, then we went to school, training camp. Went to training school, training camp.
In New York
We did our
City?
marching and everything. Yeah,
Was this in New York City?
yeah, in New York, Brooklyn, New York.
Really? And you were, how long were you in training?
I was there about 12 weeks.
I mean,
Just
just.
about 12 weeks.
I
I was,
And then where did you go?
This 20-something
then I went on board
age
ship.
for my
Went
kids.
to-
So your route was what? New York to where?
North
Each
Africa.
age is fine, you know.
And that was Algeria, right?
To this, but
Yeah.
these 20
Oran,
somethings are
Tunis.
really, really fun.
Sardinia.
Even though they don't.
And
live
which
there.
port was it that you saw people who were so hungry?
Yesterday,
Did you?
and I thought I
Oh,
knocked it
that,
out.
when we
I guess
pulled
I
into
didn't.
Sardinia,
Thank heavens for that.
the people, they hung on
To
the
get
sidewalk
things finished,
begging
it
for
takes
food.
eternity.
Huh.
They were hungry, poor people.
So did you have food to give them?
We had always had food in
I'm gonna
the
go through.
on board ship for the crew. There was always food, sandwiches and meat on the table in the kitchen.
It's like a
You could
jungle
go in
gym,
there and
isn't
eat anytime you were hungry,
It's a jungle
in
gym.
between meals, you know.
And is that where? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You'd go there and grab that and throw that to them, you
Are you
know.
gonna sit on your butt or just beside
It was sad.
And was this where you gave a guy a pack of cigarettes for his knife? Was that the place?
No, that was in North Africa, or I
Sit
think
on
it
your butt,
was,
sit
yeah.
Huh.
And then, those young kids, you know, they would just about rape you. You'd try for your clothes, because you'd come aboard, and they'd all gather around you, you know. We'd have to stay together, 2, 3. And boy, we kept everything in our pockets and hanging on to it because
Nose.
finally we
he
stopped
have a
a
nose?
cabbie, a guy driving donkeys and a cart, you know, and we got on there. And the kids all jumped on, and the wheel broke on the machine. And then the cop dropped us. They're going to charge us for the damages, you know.
And this was in Sardinia.
We got out of there, but I thought we were going to have to pay for it. But
Was this
we
in
didn't.
was this in Sardinia or in Northern Africa?
Huh?
Was this in Sardinia or Northern Africa?
North Africa, yeah, North Africa.
So how long were you? How long were you on? On land, or versus how long you were in the sea?
The longest one was from Pensacola to Gibraltar with 20 days. I didn't think we'd ever get there. We'd loaded coal in Pennsylvania and took coal to North Africa.
She,
I don't know why we went so slow. I think we're only going about 5 miles or an hour or something like that.
Burp.
And you'd stay how long at each port?
Well, you'd stay there at least a week to get unloaded.
Uh-huh.
Because they all use electric winches, you know, to winch the stuff down. And then there they had buckets to load it and throw it into their trailers and whatnot. But even down in Venezuela, there we haul a lot of cement
Mm-hmm.
and piping. And those people, they all handle it by hand. You know, the winches would come, they probably have 20 bags in a winch, you know, full load, probably a ton, you know. And They'd pick them up by hand and put them in the wheelbarrow and the wheelbarrow. And believe you me, it was hot in Venezuela too. It was a lot
Yeah.
hotter there than Africa.
Yeah.
Oh, it was hot.
So your route was New York to
Twice to North Africa.
twice to North Africa.
I changed ship and went right back again. I came home and then I went back and I got on a different ship and went to North Africa again.
So how long?
You never know where you're going to go when you sign at the Union Hall where you're sign up, you're available, and they tell you where you're going to go.
What were your duties specifically?
Huh?
What were your duties? What were you supposed to do?
I was a fireman. I had and they had on this old ship that I didn't have any training in that ship. I was trained for 2 boilers and 10 burners, I think it was. And here I got on this ship. It was an old ship in 1913.
Mm-hmm.
3 boilers and 6 boilers and 6 burners in each boiler. And you're continually changing the nozzles on them because they would get dirty.
Yeah.
Because the oil was so poor quality oil. And so you're continually changing burners, and you're watching the water gauge on your boilers. You know, you're going to add water there. I was a nervous wreck.
So you were in the boiler room, pretty much.
And you're all alone in there. There's no one else in there. I remember I was in New York, and when they maneuver going in and out of, they're half speed, full speed, oil changing, stop, and then that water gauge goes up and down like this, and you're scared to death. You don't want to run out of water.
Yeah.
I was a nervous wreck. I couldn't keep pressure up. And pretty soon the chief engineer came down. They were complaining from top deck that couldn't keep pressure. I wasn't adding enough steam to the oil heaters. I wasn't keeping the oil hot enough so that the burners would kick off.
Mm-hmm.
Oil had to be boiling almost. I was a nervous wreck that day.
They get after you? Do they yell at you?
Oh, they swear. They don't care if they swear or not, or who we are.
Yeah.
Ask him about the storm.
But they were treating me pretty good.
And then, Grandpa, there was a big storm too, right? In that old ship.
Oh yes, it was. But that was a good old ship.
You weren't scared though, were you?
No, I wasn't scared. For some reason, I was not afraid. I was not afraid. I wasn't afraid that that thing was gonna, I don't know. It's just don't think about it, I guess.
And where were you going? Do you remember where you were going when that happened? Do you remember which direction you were going when you
We were
were?
going from Oran to Tunis in the Mediterranean, and that's where we run into the rough weather. We couldn't go overboard from the front of the ship to the back of the ship on board. We had to go down to the line shaft where the line shaft was and walk that back because our forecastle was in the back of the ship.
Because it was too rough, or?
There was too much water, yeah. You'd get washed overboard.
Oh my gosh.
So. Now those Liberty ships, you don't hear much about them anymore. But during the war, how Henry J. Kaiser was building those Liberty ships, they couldn't build them fast enough. And they weren't